Your dinner might be swimming with more than just flavor, depending on where you buy your fish. Behind the icy glass displays and neatly labeled fillets, some grocery stores are hiding fishy secrets that could leave you with more than a bad meal. What looks fresh might be old, what smells fine might be bacteria-laced, and what seems like a healthy choice could actually be the most contaminated thing in your shopping cart. Let us talk about the seafood section, because some stores are serving danger on ice. Walmart once again leads the pack in ways you do not want. Their fish department is full of red flags, starting with temperature control. Independent tests from 2022 showed fish displays at multiple Walmart stores hovering between 42 and 50 degrees, well above the safety limit of 40 degrees. That might not sound like much, but for raw seafood, it is the difference between dinner and disaster. One food scientist compared it to leaving sushi in your car on a warm day, except you are paying full price for the privilege. The fish themselves tell the story. Customers frequently report finding packages with cloudy liquid, discolored edges, or that unmistakable low tide smell, the kind that hits you like a slap the moment you open the fridge. Walmart sources much of its seafood from mass suppliers overseas, where inspection standards vary wildly. In one case, shrimp sourced from a foreign processor was recalled due to contamination with antibiotics banned in the United States. Walmart pulled it after the media picked up the story, but not before hundreds of people bought and ate it. Even the frozen section is not safe. One former Walmart employee admitted that frozen fish was sometimes allowed to thaw during stocking or transport, and then refrozen, completely against food safety rules. You could tell which ones had thawed and refrozen because the ice looked weird, kind of flaky, he said. Refreezing fish not only ruins the texture, it can allow bacteria to multiply inside the flesh. You might be better off fishing in a ditch. And have you looked at Walmart's packaging? Many of their fish products are sold in thin, vacuum-sealed plastic with almost no protection from punctures. One gentle bump and the package may leak, which can lead to cross-contamination in your bag, your car, or your fridge. Some customers discovered the issue too late, after fish juice had leaked across their groceries, coating everything from strawberries to sandwich bread. That is not surf and turf, that is surf and tragedy. Now let us talk about a store you probably assumed was better. Trader Joe's. With its Hawaiian shirts, handwritten signs, and colorful murals, Trader Joe's looks like a place you can trust. But when it comes to fish, appearances can be deeply misleading. Multiple tests have shown that some of Trader Joe's most popular frozen fish products, like their wild-caught mahi-mahi and sockeye salmon, are often mislabeled. That means you think you're buying one species, but you are actually getting another. One study by an ocean advocacy group found that over 20% of their fish tested was not what the label claimed. The problem is not just honesty, it is safety. Mislabeled fish can mean unknown sourcing, different storage histories, and even increased allergy risks. A person avoiding a certain species for medical reasons could unknowingly be served exactly that. One California mother shared a story about buying wild salmon, only to learn from a fish lab that it was actually farm-raised trout, cheaper, fattier, and much more likely to carry parasites if not properly handled. Trader Joe's stores are small, but their staffing model means that employees juggle many roles, and often fish handling is an afterthought. A former worker revealed that seafood was rarely checked for temperature throughout the day and was left out for long periods during restocking. It was not unusual for the fish to sit on the floor and back for 20 minutes before going out, she said. 20 minutes is more than enough time for bacterial colonies to throw a party. Customers have also complained about inconsistent quality. Some boxes of frozen cod smell perfectly fine, while others smell like a fish market at closing time. Trader Joe's puts so much emphasis on quirky branding and clever names that you might miss the fact that the same supplier provides lower grade cuts for other chains. One popular frozen shrimp option was sourced from a processor whose practices were banned in several European countries for health violations. That sticker price comes with a side of scandal. But if Trader Joe's gives you a bad feeling, Kroger might just give you food poisoning. Kroger's seafood department has been called out repeatedly for poor temperature control, undertrained staff, and risky thawing practices. One internal memo leaked in 2021 showed that some Kroger locations were defrosting frozen fish in standing water instead of under refrigeration. That method might be fast, but it is also a perfect breeding ground for bacteria. You might as well leave your tilapia in a warm bathtub. In-store audits by local health departments have cited Kroger seafood counters for violations, ranging from cross-contamination to improper labeling. One particularly disturbing inspection revealed cooked shrimp being stored next to raw fish with no barrier between them. That is food safety 101, and Kroger failed it like a student who forgot there was a test. Another audit found that thawed fish was being held in pans without ice for several hours. When asked about it, the store manager said, "It still feels cold to me." That is not science. That is a gamble. Even worse, Kroger uses a wide network of suppliers with very little transparency. One box of Atlantic salmon could come from a sustainable farm in Norway or a chemical-laced pond in China. There is no easy way to know. Unlike other chains that list catch areas or processing locations, Kroger often keeps those details vague. Their packaging says responsibly sourced, but that phrase has no legal definition. It might mean something, or it might mean nothing at all. If you're finding these tips helpful so far, a quick like or subscribe really helps us out. Now, let's keep going. If you thought things could not get worse than Kroger's raw fish hot tub, wait until you visit a seafood case at Safeway. This chain has a history with meat safety issues, but its seafood department tells a whole new story. One filled with poor hygiene, confusing labels, and a shocking lack of accountability. Safeway markets its seafood as fresh and responsibly sourced, but what they deliver often feels more like a biology experiment gone wrong. A 2020 investigation revealed that Safeway stores in 3 Western states were selling thawed fish labeled as fresh, with no indication it had ever been frozen. That is not just misleading, it is dangerous. Once frozen fish is thawed, its shelf life shortens dramatically. It should be sold quickly, stored cold, and labeled clearly. But Safeway's fish often sits for hours in poorly maintained coolers, sweating inside their own plastic wrap like they are training for a sauna competition. Customers described the smell as wet cardboard mixed with ocean rot. That is not fresh, that is foul. Their salmon in particular has drawn complaints. Some packages appear fine until opened, then reveal slimy textures and a strong ammonia scent, a telltale sign the fish is breaking down. Former employees have confirmed that fish past its prime is sometimes repackaged or placed on ice to look fresher. One Safeway worker said, "We just sprayed lemon juice on the fillets. It kills the smell long enough to sell it. Lemon does not solve decay. It just masks it long enough to get through checkout." And then there is the matter of cross-contamination. In-store seafood counters often handle multiple species of fish, shellfish, and even ready-to-eat items like shrimp cocktails. But Safeway locations were cited in a 2021 health department audit for using the same knives, cutting boards, and gloves across raw and cooked products. One inspector described the setup as a cross-contamination hazard with a price tag. That shrimp cocktail might come with a surprise side of raw tilapia juice. And no, that is not a dipping sauce. Safeway also has a strange habit of burying recall notices. When a major frozen shrimp recall happened in 2019, due to possible listeria contamination, other chains placed large warning signs at entrances and checkout areas. Safeway? They posted it on their website in a section no customer checks unless they are actively searching for food recalls. A 2022 survey found that less than 10% of Safeway customers knew about the recall at all, even though thousands had purchased the affected shrimp. Silence might be golden, but not when people are getting sick. You might expect higher standards from a premium-priced chain, but Safeway's fish safety record is stuck in bargain bin territory. Their lack of consistency, transparency, and basic hygiene makes their seafood section feel more like a gamble than a grocery stop. And when it comes to fish, gambling is not worth it, especially not when there are safer options elsewhere. Just maybe not at Meijer. Yes, Meijer, the Midwest favorite with clean stores and a loyal following. But behind the well-lit displays and polite staff, their seafood section struggles with freshness, logistics, and misleading shelf presentation. Meijer sources much of its fish through mass distributors, many of which operate on lean inventory systems that prioritize shelf life over quality. This means frozen fish is often rushed to stores right after thawing, giving it barely a day or two before it starts to turn. That quick thawing system is convenient for suppliers, but risky for customers. A 2023 consumer report found that Meijer's prepackaged fresh fish had one of the shortest usable shelf lives among major chains. Out of 30 fillets tested, half were considered borderline spoiled within 48 hours of purchase, even though their labels claimed best buy dates up to 5 days away. One expert summed it up best. The label said 5 days. The smell said throw it out now. Even their popular frozen fish is not immune. In blind taste tests, Meijer's breaded fish sticks and fillets scored near the bottom for flavor and texture. Many testers described the products as soggy, fishy, or bland. Some even compared them to microwavable sponges. That might seem funny until you realize those fish sticks are often sold as kid-friendly meals. And kids are even more vulnerable to foodborne illnesses caused by poorly handled seafood. Meijer's internal training also contributes to the problem. A whistleblower from a Michigan location said that seafood training was one and done, a 15-minute walkthrough on how to rotate fish fish and label expiration dates. No follow-up, no refresher courses, no regular temperature checks. As long as it looks okay, it gets stocked, he said. That might be fine for cereal. It is not fine for fish. Temperature tracking is another weak spot. A report from a consumer safety group showed that in over 20 Meijer locations tested, nearly 40% of the seafood cases had temperatures above the recommended threshold. The worst location had tilapia sitting at 48 degrees for hours, with no ice and no alert from staff. Warm fish wrapped tight in plastic, sweating in a case that no one checks. That is a recipe for bacteria, not dinner. Packaging at Meijer is also a disappointment. Some stores use clear wrap that fogs up, making it impossible to see what the fish actually looks like. Others label fish as wild caught, without listing where it was caught or processed. The phrase product of multiple countries has shown up on labels for cod, pollock, and flounder, all of which should have a clear country of origin for traceability. Instead, Meijer's labels make it feel like your fish took a world tour before landing in your cart, and not in a good way. To make matters worse, Meijer's supply chain includes vendors flagged for sustainability issues. A 2022 environmental audit showed that some of Meijer's frozen fish came from overfished regions or farms with questionable water quality controls. That means the fish may contain elevated levels of pollutants like mercury or microplastics, especially in species like swordfish or tuna. You thought you were eating clean. Turns out your fillet might have more in common with a chemistry set. By now, you might be wondering, how did it get this bad across so many grocery chains? The answer is simple. Fish is fragile. It is one of the most sensitive proteins in the store. It spoils faster, absorbs more odors, and carries a higher risk of contamination if handled poorly. And unlike beef or chicken, where appearance gives clear warning signs, spoiled fish can still look perfectly fine. It might even smell okay if it was pre-washed or vacuum sealed. But once it hits the pan, or your stomach, the truth reveals itself. And the biggest danger of all? Most shoppers have no idea what spoiled fish actually looks like. Meat turns brown, milk curdles, produce wilts. But fish? It can sit there looking perfectly fine while bacteria multiply inside like they are hosting a party. You could open that neatly vacuum-packed salmon, cook it just the way you like, and still end up doubled over with food poisoning because somewhere along the line it sat too warm for too long. And there's no label for that. Fish is delicate and it needs constant attention from the moment it is caught to the moment it hits your fork. But many grocery chains treat it like just another product. Toss it in a plastic tray, wrap it tight, and hope nobody notices the flaws until they are far from the store. That is not just lazy. It is dangerous. Because unlike other foods, fish can go from safe to spoiled in a matter of hours, not days. And once it is off, there is no saving it. One microbiologist described it like this: fish is a race against time. Every link in the chain matters. Catch, transport, store, display, purchase, refrigerate. Miss just one step, and you are feeding your customers bacteria. When you walk into a grocery store and see the fish glistening on crushed ice, you assume that chain was followed. But based on what we have seen across Walmart, Trader Joe's, Kroger, Safeway, and Meijer, that assumption is often just wishful thinking. And the biggest betrayal? Many of these stores charge premium prices for the illusion of quality. They add labels like wild caught, responsibly sourced, or sustainably farmed, as if those phrases come with safety guarantees. But those terms are often just marketing. They speak to how the fish was raised or caught, not how it was handled. You can have the most responsibly sourced fish in the world, and if it sat at 50 degrees for a few hours, it is still unsafe. Some chains even play with language in a way that misleads without technically lying. For example, previously frozen might be missing entirely from a label, even though the fish sat in a deep freeze for months before it was thawed in store. Or they will use fresh packed, when what they mean is packed a while ago but thawed recently. It sounds honest. It is not. It is the retail equivalent of saying technically true while hoping you do not ask more questions. There is also the issue of cross-contamination, which happens far more than stores admit. Seafood counters in big grocery chains are often manned by employees handling multiple products: fish, shellfish, ready-to-eat crab cakes, even cooked shrimp. But in stores where training is minimal and turnover is high, proper glove changes and utensil swaps are spotty at best. One Safeway worker admitted that he would often slice raw tilapia and cooked shrimp with the same knife, just wiping it off in between. That is not food safety. That is food roulette. And yes, consumers have some responsibility too. Leaving fish in a warm car, forgetting to refrigerate it right away, or letting it sit on the counter too long will definitely speed up spoilage. But that is why the grocery store's role is even more critical. If they are handing you a product that is already borderline, your window for safe handling shrinks to almost nothing. You think you are making dinner. you are actually diffusing a bacterial time bomb. The truth is, fish is one of the most mishandled proteins in the grocery store industry, and most shoppers will never know it until it is too late. Maybe it is the odd smell, maybe it is the strange texture, or maybe it is the stomach cramps that show up the next day and stay a little too long. The signs are there, but only after the damage is done. So what can you do? First, get familiar with what fresh fish really looks like. The flesh should be firm and bounce back when pressed. The color should be vibrant, not dull or gray. If the fish is in a sealed package, check the liquid. Clear is fine, milky or cloudy is not. And most importantly, trust your nose. If it smells like a dock at low tide, walk away. No deal is worth that smell. Second, start asking questions. Where was this fish caught? Was it previously frozen? When was it thawed? If the employee behind the counter cannot answer, or worse, does not understand the question, you already have your answer. Good stores train their staff to know these things. Bad ones train their staff to smile and point at labels. Third, do not let price blind you. A $5 discount means nothing if you are throwing out $20 worth of groceries after your fish leaks into the bag. And high prices do not mean high quality. We have seen that again and again. Trader Joe's mislabeled fillets, Safeway's repackaged rejects, Meijer's soggy fish sticks that seem less like dinner and more like punishment. Most importantly, stop assuming the grocery store has your back. Some do, many do not. The more you pay attention, the more you realize that fish safety is often treated as optional. Something handled well only when it is convenient. But bacteria do not wait for convenience. They do not care if it is busy, or if a cooler is down, or if someone forgot to rotate stock. They just grow. If you want to stay safe, be skeptical. Not paranoid, just smart. Buy from places that specialize in seafood or have dedicated fishmongers. Support stores that label clearly, refrigerate properly, and train staff consistently. And if your only option is a big box chain with a questionable seafood case, maybe skip the fillet and stick to something a little less fragile. Because the truth is, not every fish on ice is safe. Some of them should have stayed in the ocean. So the next time you walk into a grocery store and see that glistening piece of salmon staring back at you, ask yourself one question. Do I trust this store to keep my food safe from boat to cart to table? If the answer is even slightly unsure, put it down and walk away. Because nothing ruins dinner like fish that never should have been sold in the first place. And that is the fishy truth behind 5 grocery stores where what looks fresh might just be trouble in disguise. Your best defense? Curiosity, caution, and the courage to say no thanks when something smells off, literally or figuratively. When it comes to seafood, trust is earned, not assumed. And now you know exactly where that trust has been broken. If this fishy truth made you think twice about what's really on ice, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the food you trust. Thanks for watching. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.